Hi, this is Eric Durak, and welcome to this edition of Med Health Fit, the TV show that integrates wellness and healthcare. And part of wellness has to do with mindfulness, and mindfulness is becoming a very important part of a lot of people's lives because of stress. And that said, I have the distinct pleasure of welcoming Kate Kilmurray to the show tonight. Welcome, Kate.
Thank you.
And Kate has probably the most interesting show that I have ever done, because most people are pharmacists or physicians or nutrition specialists or exercise trainers or health coaches. You practice the meditation side of weaving. So you are actually creating home products for people, but you're not just making it to make it, you're making it to actually have some level of inner spirituality that we want to get to. So I really have to ask, how did all this start for you? Where did you come from being, what your previous profession was, to getting involved with the entire concept of weaving and weaving for health?
Well, it's really lovely to be here, and I enjoy having the opportunity to tell this story. I grew up with my grandmother having a millinery shop. So I had this deep personal connection with a grandmother who used her hands to make hats. And then I was a competitive figure skater, and my mother would make my skating dresses.
Okay.
And I then went to University of Pennsylvania and I studied art history. Not the arts, art history. And it wasn't until after 15 years running a yoga center where my practice was learning how to slow down and center myself and help other people to use yoga as a way in which one could find oneself through movement and quiet this busy mind that we all have. And about 5 years ago, my son graduated from high school, and my husband and I and my son moved from Boston to Ojai, California.
Right up the road.
And I had this vision that I wanted to bring something creative into my life. That having raised our son and had a yoga center, there was something else that I felt a calling. There was a quality of using my hands that I felt was in my history with my grandmother and my mother. And I had used this 7x7 metal loom for weaving when I was a small child. And somehow it came to me that this was something that could give me a sense of purpose. It could give me a whole direction in terms of color and design, and to use my hands to make something that would be, on the practical side, I could use it in the kitchen, but then on the aesthetic side, it could be something just beautiful to have in my kitchen as well. So I am really very inspired by mindful eating. So when I have things in my kitchen that I love to have, it makes a difference as to how much I want to be there, chopping vegetables and cooking.
That's an interesting point, because we just had a Christmas party, and we have a progressive party, so we go from house to house, and guess where everyone congregates? In the kitchen.
That's right.
So when we met on the phone a couple weeks ago, we spoke, and I took copious notes. And one of the things that you said that I wrote down, which we felt was sort of a mantra for your business, was to slow down and do less, which is absolutely contrary to everything this country is about, because you look at those guys up at Apple and Google and Facebook up in the Bay Area, and they're all working 16 hours a day. They live at their office, they live on their phone, they live on their computer. So explain how because Boston's a busy city. You got to drive. I've driven through Boston before. It's a lot of stuff going on there. So you come to Ojai, which is it's a little bit different. And so this slow down, do less is, I don't know if it's on the placard of your company, but it's really how you're delivering your vision. How is it working for people? How are they accepting of that?
Well, I started to teach this, and I have been so moved by how women have come to, say, Cattywampus Crafts in Ojai to take a class. And they come in a little nervous. They haven't done anything like this since they were a kid, a little bit of uneasiness. And by the end of a 2-hour workshop, they have produced one of these hand weavings, and I see the joy in their faces, and their eyes are sparkling because they know that they've made something from start to finish that they can take home and use in their kitchen, and then they can make something for a friend that has something special, that choosing colors and...
Well, walk us through a little bit. This is when we spoke, you called it a 7x7 weave, and the name of that device is?
So this is a metal loom.
Okay.
And these are the loops. They're cotton loops.
Okay.
And the first step is to simply place them from one side to the next.
Okay, so you'll put a couple in, and then you'll
Yes.
show the camera here
And
how you're
so
doing
then
it.
this is what it will look like when I'm finished. The second step is the weaving. And the weaving is taking, again, this loop and under, over, and that's what creates.
So it's almost like a
the
stitching
weave.
pattern, a little bit like a stitching pattern.
It's a weaving.
A weaving pattern.
And so I'm going from right to left, and then I hook it on
Okay, so show us again.
the other side.
Right. So you're
And
just
then
going,
with my hands, I drag it down so that each of the loops is lined up across.
and we can see that on camera. It's
And
great.
as I work my way down, then I come to a finished piece.
An almost finished piece, because
Yes.
eventually
A
we want
finished-
it. We
the
want it to
weaving
look
is
right. The weaving
finished.
is completed. All
And
right.
then it's a whole other art learning to take it off.
Okay.
And as you take it off, you start at one side and you pick up a loop, and then you take the other loop through it. And so that makes what's called the edge.
Okay.
And when I started this, I just used solid colors because
So we have some examples here of blues and purples and burgundies and blacks.
and there's this wonderful company, Harrisville Designs, that makes these beautiful cotton loops.
And this is the company that's from Vermont, and it's harrisville.com is the website.
harrisvilledesign.com. And the reason that they're so much better than other companies is the quality of the loop is consistent. When I go to place it on the loom, I know that it's going to have an even, consistent stretch.
Every single time.
Yes,
Okay.
not all loops have that.
Okay.
And the other piece that is very special is the colors. As you can see, these are really beautiful colors. And then the art of this is learning how to put the colors in combinations that are pleasing. So this is a willow and a flax color. And you can see it's the same color, just reversed. So I could take all of these colors and reproduce them, creating very simple and beautiful patterns.
And it's a two-tone. You could have a four-tone, or, I mean...
Yes.
Okay.
There are, I've done 3 or 4 are the most number of colors that I've woven in, but you could
You could do a
you
lot.
could use all of these because you have 18
Right. So theoretically, you could use 18 on one and the
Yes.
same on the other, or another.
And there are people who are really into very dramatic colors. It's not my style. I like to have a much simpler quality. But the piece that we haven't talked about is the meditation piece.
Right. So you're well. Part of this is that you're using your hands, and one of the things that we spoke about again before the show in a little bit here is that people, I think the only thing they're using their hands for today is to use their a computer or their phone devices, and this sort of brings people back to a quality that I think where they accomplish something and they finish something, because we spoke about my daughter, when she was younger, she took a sewing class because her mother had learned to sew and her grandmother had learned to sew. So people don't think of it as passing down something, from one generation. Well, I just took this class. Well, but you are, because you can actually learn to either create something from scratch, or you can fix something, you can repair something that is maybe an heirloom, maybe it's your grandmother's dress or something that you can actually do something with it. So using the hands, I think, is because you're really bringing something back in America that has not really been used for at least 50 years, but in some cases 100 years or more.
Yes. Well, our hands are windows into our hearts. When we use our hands, we feel it. There's an emotional connection. When you hug someone.
Right. Hold your baby, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Right?
So when we start to do something with our hands, whether it's weaving, knitting, right now there's a huge interest in knitting as well. And I think this is because we have an emotional response. We have a connection. And that connection is bringing us back into our bodies, giving a sense of wholeness. And I think from all these hours looking at the screen, we're up and out, and we're not connecting with ourselves in the same way as when we were more connected to the land, working the land, being embodied,
Right. Well, no, I get that. And another interesting thing is that you're making these, and it's only one thing that you're making, but you want it to last because you made it. It's not something that you're going to throw away. And I heard on television, and of course investigated afterwards, about the fact that over 30% of all the material that's thrown into landfills are clothes. And I'm like, how could you throw away something like your good pair of shoes or the shirts? And it's because you buy these things at Ross for less, for $10, they last less than a year, and out they go. So everything has become a commodity. Expand on this is that if you make it yourself, it's yours and you have ownership, and you'd really like it to last.
Yes, and this reminds me that when this particular weaving started, this was the top of a cotton sock that was cut. So let's say your sock got holes in the bottom and you weren't able to fix it. So they would take the top of socks and cut them, and that would be the original loop. And I love that because it takes us back. I mean, these are all machine made now, and that's why they're so consistent. But you're right, when we take time, and when you learn to do this art, this craft, you can learn to do it in a half an hour. In my workshops, it's a 2-hour process to learn how to do this. But you're right. I have friends who have sent me pictures of hand weavings that they've done as kids.
Hold that up for camera 3. That's a really nice color. It's a really nice, simple, one-color design. But and I do want to get into the breath and the meditation part. But before we do, I'm going to have Michael put up your first workshop, because you actually have workshops that you do both at your place in Ojai and other cities. You're actually going to be here in Santa Barbara at the MILLWORKS this month. So in a second or two, Michael's going to put up that flyer on the screen so people can copy it down. And while he does, there it is right there. Thursday, February 28th at 5:30 here at MILLWORKS. And what's the address here in Santa Barbara?
So it's in the Funk District.
In the Funk Zone,
Yes.
yeah.
And it's a really beautiful space for learning. I highly recommend people coming. There's going to be time to learn the simple weaving process, and I also will take everyone through a guided meditation.
And that leads us right into the whole aspect of the mind, body, spirit aspect of this. Because my grandmother wasn't, she didn't chant Oms, she just did what she did. But here you actually can combine this whole mind, body, spirit aspect of doing this very simple, creative thing. So, so elaborate on that.
So just the act of weaving takes focus, concentration. And the beginning stages of meditation is just that, concentrating on one thing. So we live in a mind that's doing this ping pong match. We're going from one thought to another. We're going from past to future. We're very rarely just in the present moment. So by practicing being conscious of our breath, it allows us to slow down and to come home to simply being with the breath as it is. Simply watching the inhale and the exhale. And as we're doing that, we can be doing the weaving, which is a very rhythmic, it's like a wave. Right? And we all love to walk on the beach. And why do we love that? Because it's relaxing our shoulders, it's allowing the body to quiet, the mind to settle, and then we feel better about ourselves because we stop this racing. And it's the racing that is really creating so much stress because it's overwhelming, it's too much. So we need to find a way to slow down, come home to the breath, use our hands in the weaving, knitting, there are many things, chopping vegetables. There are many ways in which we can move into this arena of conscious living.
And you've used some words, again, before we came on air, and as you're talking tonight about purpose and usefulness and just doing, I'm going to say simple tasks because I'm sure there's a little complicatedness to it, but it's something that someone can pick up very quickly. But they're focusing on one thing at a time, and I really do think, because one of the questions that I have here is things that from generation to generation that we've lost. And I do think that a lot of these crafts things, so my daughter was really into crafts. She used to make necklaces and all these kind of things when she was younger. And she doesn't do any of that stuff. She just works now. And I really think that the whole thing about doing something with purpose, whether you're practicing your instrument every day or you're writing in your journal or you're doing something like weaving, that can sort of get you to sort of turn off a little bit. Do you speaking of breath, do you have people take 3 breaths in and then 3 breaths out, or do you have them just kind of center themselves and let them kind of go at their own pace?
Well, to start, what I like to do is have people feel their alignment. Because for most of us, because of screens, we're very forward. So we want to come home into the body and feel the length of our spine. Feel very grounded from the base, and then feel a lifting and a lengthening and an openness, as opposed to a collapse, a down in, a forward head. Right? So just that, coming home into the body and feeling that sense of belonging, coming home to this space, this vessel that we need to really be conscious about nurturing. And then you can close your eyes or not and simply feel the rhythm of the breath. It's something that is with us all day long, but our culture isn't one that gives us a spaciousness to feel the breath. So then we just feel the in-breath, feel the out-breath. And it's that simple. It's just taking time to be aware of the breath. And that in and of itself really helps in the de-stressing and the relaxing of the mind, the settling of the body.
Well, and I hear a little bit of your yoga, probably instructional yoga stuff come out, which again is look how much of an impact yoga has had in the United States in the last 20 years or so, 25 years. I mean, yoga now is one of the top areas of the health and fitness profession. If you have a health club, every health club in Santa Barbara, most of them anyway, have yoga. And it's almost a part of what it is now. And so take us through the class. Everyone, do they have to buy, they pay you $20 or $100 or $1,000 a class, and they come in and they get their materials. Mm-hmm. And then you talk to them about what?
So at MILLWORKS, coming up February 28th, the price that you pay includes the metal loom that you'll take home, and then enough of the loops to make 2 of these hand weavings.
Okay.
And the colors are a multiple
and
set.
Do you just pick a bag of red if you want red?
Well, the kit comes with multiple colors.
Okay.
So you start with multiple colors, and I'm not focusing in the first class so much on the design, just more the basic technique.
Okay.
But this leads me that I'd like to show some of the other patterns, because
Sure.
it
So
really is amazing.
Bring that guy up, and I'll bring this guy down.
So this is the same color, hydrangea and white, that I did in many different patterns. So this is, like I showed before, the 2 different colors in the same pattern.
Right.
Now this is a much more traditional style. This is what we remember our grandmother.
That was, that was in my
Yeah.
grandmother's kitchen.
Exactly. So if you imagine, you can do this pattern in any of these colors. So I guess the better way to show it is any of these colors you could take. So really it's this
and make that pattern design.
and make this pattern.
Right.
So depending on your interest, you could really go more contrasty with a purple and a blue. Mm-hmm. Or if you wanted something more subdued, go with two grays. Mm-hmm. And this is where the creativity and this emerging from your own sense of design and aesthetic can...
Right, and I think what you'd look at to see what color your paint is in your kitchen, or your splash, thing in the back, or your marble, or what do you call it, the granite tabletop, or whatever you have in there, your formica, is that you could mix and match, and there's another level of creativity there. So you have a workshop coming up in Santa Barbara this month, coming up soon, and then next month, and I don't know where Cattywampus is, but I got to go there sometime because that's a great name. Michael, could you put up number 2, March 31st, Cattywampus?
Ojai is very blessed to have a fairly new store. And so they sell the weavings. They also have just incredible yarns and fabric. Mm-hmm. And they have knitting circles. So the owners have really done an outstanding job in creating a beautiful setting for learning.
March 31st, is it also at 5:30? I can't...
So March 31st from 2 to 4.
2 o'clock to 4.
And you would sign up on their website, cattywampus.com.
If you could spell it.
It's in Ojai, and if you forget the name, all you have to do is put craft store in Ojai, right. And it'll come up.
And you'll have 700 of them. No, I'm just kidding. Because Ojai is such a fun place to go walk up and down the main drag and look at all of the craft stores and look at all of the beautiful design stores, and just, again, you almost get a deep centered breath just being there because it's such a fun place to be.
We love it. We love that it's surrounded by mountains, mm-hmm. and the valley is just so beautiful.
I first heard of Ojai 40 years ago when I was in high school, and I listened to a jazz artist, And I remember reading one of the album covers, and it said he lived on, I thought it was Canada Street, but it's Kenyatta Street in Ojai, California. And he had a song called Topa Topa Woman. That's the dumbest name for a song. And then I see the Topa Mountains, and I said, it was beautiful. So it is such a fun place to go. So that's your second workshop.
Yeah.
And you actually practice in Ojai. I mean, your shop, your gatherings, in not just for workshops, and in your location, but you said before the show that you will actually come to a client's home or a group home or something to do right for them. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so over the holiday, a few women approached me and said, I would love to have this as a gathering in my home. Mm-hmm. Instead of giving a present, I want to give the experience of hand weaving.
Excellent.
And everyone has really been drawn to the mindfulness piece as well. Because I say, oh, do you want to just do the weaving? They're like, no, we really want the meditation. Because the meditation is what, when women come together in circle, it's quieting and it's very nurturing and grounding.
Men can do it too as well, right?
And men can do it.
Yeah, because I would imagine there'd be some I'm going to say older men who remember from their family that their grandmother or their aunt or someone did that, and they'd want to do that too.
Yeah.
So we're coming close to the end here. So I'm going to have Michael put up your last workshop, which is at Porch
in Carpinteria.
Carpinteria, and that's on April the 24th. And what time is that one?
So that's an evening gathering.
Okay.
From 6 to 8, and again, a beautiful space. They have home goods and a garden in the back, and I'm really delighted to be teaching there as well. And each of the three workshops will be very similar in terms of my intention. Teaching some meditation, and everyone at the end of the class will complete one hand weaving. And then they'll have enough of the loops and the metal loom to take home and practice.
And if they really like it, they can go to Harrisville website, they can order more things, and they can sort of make their own thing.
Yes.
They can do their own thing. So you've got 3 workshops coming up. You're here in Ojai. This is your town now. So tell us your website. I know Michael's going to put it up here in just a second, but give us your website.
So to find out more about me, you can go to KateKilmurray.com, and my website will have all of these workshops listed and more about my journey. And I also sell these hand weavings, and right in Santa Barbara,
excellent.
Raoul Textiles has been a really wonderful supporter of my work.
Fantastic. Well, listen, 30 minutes went by just like that. So Kate Kilmurray, very, very interesting stuff here. The mind-body experience of weaving, getting back to basics, getting back to our family roots, etc. This is Eric Durak for MedHealthFit.com. Thank you for joining us, and hopefully you'll join us next time. This is Eric Durak for MedHealthFit.